Hi, today I'm sharing an illustration I did for a poetry anthology collab with V, aka the Sassy Library Fox. V's poem Tears is linked in the description box, and the concept for this painting is a personified waterfall with tears gushing out as waterfalls, a cave for a mouth, a rocky outcrop as a nose, and a fallen tree trunk to suggest eyes and brows. I tried to keep the line art light as the scene is going to be really airy. There's going to be steam, shafts of sunlight, and even a bit of lava. I was quite inspired by the final line, to heaven or hell, in V's poem. Of course, being me, light line art still means a lot of detail. I've sped this up so much to not bore you all. Line art is one of my favorite stages, so I really like to take my time with it and do it properly. My artboard is actually a chopping board. I actually almost bought a board I saw in an art shop, but it was MDF, and I wanted a solid wood one as I wanted to use the board for stretching watercolor paper as well, and I don't think you can do that with MDF. I see a lot of other people tape their paper to their table, but I can't do that as my table is MDF too. So if you do watercolor painting, what do you use to tape your painting onto? What do you tape your painting onto? That's what I'm trying to ask. Now onto applying some masking fluid. In the study I did before this piece, which I'll show at the end, I loved how the masking fluid preserved the sparkling sunlit highlights on the water, so I did the same here. I'll later be lifting out the sunlight and steam from this wash that I'm laying down, which unfortunately I didn't film, but I'll link to some useful tutorials in the description that I found helpful when painting this one. In the lava studies I did, which I'll also show later, masking out the bright glowing cracks worked really nicely, so I did the same here. Some edges are a bit softer as they're partially blurred by the billowing steam, so yeah. Finally onto the waterfall. I did a few layers streaking transparent glazes over each other and letting the brush skip a bit on the tooth of the paper. This one's cold press, I think, to look more organic. Here I'm just building up the layers and softening them a bit. Nothing is going to be too sharp as the spray from the water would be blurring everything to some extent anyway. As you can see, I've done some of the rocks already, basically starting with a base light wash of the lightest the rocks would get, to be then left as highlights in the gaps between the brush strokes. I used my flat shader brush for this, as the shape gave nice edges to each stroke that resembled organic rock forms. So yes, this is basically how I would use the brush to really quickly dab in the shadows and the edges, as the highlights are basically there already. I also dropped greens wet into wet so it would blend out softly and look like moss. The lava is the very last part. I start each crack with the lighter yellows and oranges and then add the darker reds where I saw them in the reference photos. I say photos plural because it's kind of hard to, when you have a scene like this, to just use one. Even like just for the lava I would be using 2 or 3. pretty nervous tape removal. Just a couple of close-ups of the lava, the shadows in the steam, and the full painting. These are just a few lava and waterfall studies I did to prep for this painting. Thank you so much for watching. As always, if you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe. I'm also now on Ko-fi. Any support helps so much. In the next video, I'll be breaking in my new sketchbook with a little Grishaverse fan art. See you next time. Take care!